I'm 42 now, and I live in a quiet little cul-de-sac where nothing ever happens. I moved here 6 years ago after my divorce, mostly because the neighborhood was quiet and the rent was low. I never thought much of it, just another suburban street full of middle-aged couples and elderly folks tending to their rose bushes. That was, until the house across the street got rented out 3 months ago. It had been empty for a while. The owners moved to Florida, left it in the hands of a property manager, and for nearly a year it sat vacant. Then, one day, a U-Haul showed up. I didn't pay too much attention at first, people come and go. But there was something about the new tenant that made my skin prickle the second I saw him. He was around my age, maybe a bit younger. Wore a dark hoodie pulled tight around his face, even though it was late May. I watched him move boxes late into the night, alone. No friends, no moving crew. Just him and that rattling U-Haul until almost 2 a.m. The next morning, the truck was gone, and the house looked lived in, the curtains drawn, porch light on. I figured he was just a bit private, maybe going through something. I didn't think much of it, until the second night. That's when the lights in the back bedroom started flickering. Not like a bulb going out, but a pattern, on, off, pause, on, off, off. I watched from my kitchen window, frozen with my mug halfway to my lips, thinking maybe he was testing a smart light setup or something. But then the flickering stopped. And didn't happen again. The next morning, my mail was missing. At first, I thought maybe the wind had blown it away. But the neighbors got theirs just fine. I asked our mail carrier if she'd seen anything odd, she hadn't. I started to think maybe I was just being paranoid. That was the beginning of it. I kept brushing things off. The flickering lights, the missing mail, the eerie stillness of that house. I told myself I was being paranoid, too many crime podcasts, maybe. But then something happened that I couldn't ignore. About a week after he moved in, I got a letter. Not a bill, not junk mail. Just a plain white envelope, no return address, slipped under my front door. My name was typed neatly across the front, but the moment I opened it, a chill ran through me. Inside was a single sentence: "You look sad when you drink your coffee alone." That's it. No name. No signature. No clue who it was from. I just stood there, holding it in my hands, heart pounding. My kitchen window faces the street. I usually sit at the table with my coffee every morning. It's my routine. I never thought much of it, until someone else noticed. Someone who didn't just pass by, but watched. I didn't tell anyone. What could I even say? That some guy across the street might be leaving me creepy notes? Instead, I started pulling the blinds shut in the mornings. I moved my coffee to the couch. And I kept an eye on him. He barely left the house. No car in the driveway. No guests. I never saw food deliveries or trash cans rolled to the curb. Just the porch light every night, the flickering bedroom lamp once or twice more, and occasionally, the faint shadow of someone pacing behind drawn curtains. Then, 3 days later, another letter showed up. "You sleep with the hallway light on. Do you think it keeps you safe?" That one made me sick to my stomach. I hadn't told a soul about that habit, not even my ex-husband knew. But yes, I do sleep with that light on. I always have. After the divorce, I started waking up in panic attacks. That soft glow in the hallway helped. It was a comfort. And now, suddenly, someone knew. Someone was watching. I started keeping the lights off completely. And I installed a camera by my door the next day. I didn't sleep the night I installed the camera. Every creak in the house had me wide awake. I laid there staring at the ceiling, waiting for the chime on my phone to alert me that someone was at the door again. Nothing happened that night. But the next morning, just like before, a letter was under my door. Same white envelope. Same typed font dot. "You're scared. That's smart." I didn't even open the blinds that day. I went straight to my phone, opened the camera app, and scrolled through the footage. At exactly 2:41 a.m., I saw it. A figure stepped into frame from the left side, no sound, no light, just a dark silhouette in a hoodie. He didn't walk up the steps. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. He bent down, slid the envelope under my door, and looked directly at the camera. But the face, his face, was completely obscured by something. Not just a hood, but a kind of smooth, white mask. No features. Just blank, like some cheap Halloween thing. Then he turned and walked back out of frame as calmly as he'd arrived. I paused the video and stared at that single frame for what felt like hours. It was him. It had to be. There was no mistaking the way he walked. I'd seen that shuffle across the street late at night through my curtains. That slight limp in his right leg. He always moved like he was half asleep. I went outside for the first time in days. I walked straight across the street and stood in front of his house. Every curtain was drawn. Every window shut tight. The porch was bare, no welcome mat, no plants, nothing to suggest a human being actually lived there. I rang the doorbell. Once. Twice. No answer. Then I noticed something that made my blood turn cold. His mailbox, crammed full, nearly bursting. A week's worth of junk mail, newspapers, and circulars stuffed inside. But I knew I had seen him just last night. I had him on camera. If he hadn't picked up his mail in over a week, then where the hell was he coming from? That overflowing mailbox stuck with me all day. If he wasn't picking up his mail, then how was he still slipping letters under my door? It didn't make sense. That night, I made a decision. I called the non-emergency police line and told them I was worried about my neighbor. That I hadn't seen him in days, that his mailbox was full, and maybe someone should check on him. I didn't mention the letters. I just said it was a welfare check. It felt safer that way. The officer who came out was polite, but indifferent. He knocked on the guy's door a few times, called out, then shrugged. Told me there was no sign of forced entry and that unless I had real reason to believe he was in danger, there wasn't much they could do. He left, and I felt like a fool. But 2 hours later, I checked my camera again. At 3:17 a.m., the same figure appeared. Same hoodie. Same blank mask. This time, he didn't leave a letter. He just stood there. For almost 6 minutes. Just standing outside my door, motionless, facing the camera. Then he slowly raised one hand and pointed directly into the lens. My skin crawled. I slammed the app shut, turned every light on in the house, and sat on the floor with my back against the front door, heart racing. He knew I'd called the cops. He knew I was watching. The next morning, I marched across the street and opened his mailbox myself. Just like before, stuffed to the brim. But wedged between 2 grocery flyers was something else. A letter. Just like mine. But this one wasn't addressed to me. It had my name on it, yes, but this time, it said, "I'm not inside. I never was. Stop calling people." I dropped it right there on the curb. I didn't go back inside. I didn't even look back. I just drove. Anywhere. I drove aimlessly for hours. Ended up in a diner 2 towns over, nursing bad coffee just so I wouldn't have to go back home. I stared at my phone the whole time, waiting for another notification from the camera app. But there was nothing. Just silence. That somehow made it worse. Eventually, I went back, but I didn't go inside. I parked a few houses down and sat in my car, engine off, eyes fixed on his place. Still no lights. No movement. Then I noticed something that hadn't been there before. A curtain on the second floor, one that had always been closed, was now cracked open just a little. Enough to see the edge of a figure standing inside. Facing my house. My throat tightened. I watched for what had to be 20 straight minutes. That figure didn't move. Not once. Just stood there. And then my phone buzzed. Another notification from the front door camera. I opened the feed and froze. The man was back, standing at my door. Same mask, same hoodie. Except this time, he wasn't alone. There was a second figure, shorter, hunched slightly, standing just behind him. Also masked. They didn't move. Just stood there in silence for exactly 3 minutes. Then the taller one reached out and placed something gently on my welcome mat. A USB drive. I waited until they left, counted to 50, then bolted from my car and grabbed it before I lost my nerve. Back inside, I plugged it into an old laptop I barely use. There was only one file on it. A video. It was night vision footage, time-stamped 3 nights ago. The angle was strange, slightly high, angled downward, grainy like from an old security system. But I recognized the room immediately. It was my bedroom. The video showed me, asleep, facing the window. The hallway light was on, just like in the letter. Everything was still. Until I saw it. A shadow moved in the corner of the room. A figure standing in the far left edge of the frame. Watching me. The footage ran for 28 minutes. The figure never moved. And I never woke up. The video ended abruptly, with a whisper barely caught by the mic. Just one word. Closer. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even blink. I sat in my living room with every light on, staring at that laptop screen, replaying the video over and over. Each time, that final frame, me sleeping, the shadow standing there, and that barely audible whisper, sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. Who filmed it? How did they get inside? That door had been locked. I was sure of it. I checked it every night, habit. I even had a chain latch. So how? At 4:12 a.m. The hallway light flickered. Not fully off. Just a little blink. I didn't move. Then I heard it. A soft, steady tapping from somewhere inside the house. Not at the door. From inside. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped cautiously toward the hallway. The sound was faint, like nails against wood, slow, methodical. Tap, tap, pause, tap. It was coming from behind the wall. I put my ear to it and listened. For a while, there was nothing. Then, a whisper. I couldn't make out the words. It was like someone murmuring through a pillow. But the cadence was unmistakable. They were speaking. To me. From inside the wall. I backed away fast. Every instinct screamed to get out, to run, but I couldn't move. I was frozen by the realization that someone, something, was inside my home. Not just outside watching. Inside. Watching closer than I ever imagined. I finally bolted for the front door. I didn't even grab my keys. I just ran to my car barefoot, heart in my throat. When I turned on the headlights to pull out, my stomach dropped. There was something written across my windshield. 3 words. See you tonight. I didn't go to the police. I wish I could tell you why. I don't have a good answer. Maybe because I knew how it would sound. Maybe because part of me still didn't fully believe it was real. Instead, I drove straight to a motel on the edge of town. One of those sad little places with flickering neon signs and mismatched curtains. The kind where no one asks questions and the clerk barely looks up when you hand over cash. I stayed there all day. Didn't eat. Barely moved. Just kept checking my phone, waiting for another camera alert. But there was nothing. Until 7:04 p.m. My phone buzzed. Camera notification, motion detected, living room. I hadn't been there since the night before. I tapped the feed open and held my breath. At first, nothing. Just an empty living room. My lights were off now, someone had turned them off. Then, slowly, a figure stepped into frame. Same hoodie. Same mask. But this time, they were holding something. My coffee mug. The one I used every morning. The one mentioned in the very first letter. He walked slowly, deliberately, across the room, turned toward the camera, and held it up. As if to say, this is mine now. Then he disappeared from the frame again. Like he knew exactly where the camera's blind spot was. I watched the rest of the feed. He never came back into view. But 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. No alert. Just a text. From an unknown number. Come home. It's your turn to watch. I dropped the phone. I should have left town. Should have called someone. But instead, I started driving back. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed to end it. The streets were empty by the time I got back to my neighborhood. Every porch dark, every driveway still. It was like the whole cul-de-sac was holding its breath. I parked 2 houses down again. I didn't want to pull into my driveway. Didn't want to make noise. I just sat there, staring at my front door, half expecting him to be standing there again. But there was no one. I crept up to the house with my phone in one hand, keys in the other. I didn't even unlock the door right away. I checked the camera feed first. Still empty. Finally, I slipped inside. It smelled wrong. Like damp wood and cold metal. Like the house had been holding its breath too, waiting for me. Everything was where I left it. Except the mug. It was gone. And the laptop, shut, but still warm. I stepped carefully through each room. No one. No sign of a break-in. Even the back door was still locked, chain latch in place. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I walked into the hallway and froze. There was something new on the wall. Written in what looked like chalk, or maybe something worse, scrawled across the wallpaper, were 6 words. You weren't supposed to come back. I turned and ran for the door. But before I could open it, the hallway light flickered again. And then everything went black. Power cut. In that pitch-black silence, I heard it again. From behind the wall. That whisper. Louder this time. Clearer. It said my name. And then. It laughed. The laugh wasn't loud. It wasn't menacing. It was soft, almost amused, like someone giggling under their breath after hearing a secret only they understood. That somehow made it worse. I pressed my back to the front door, fumbling with the lock in the dark. My fingers wouldn't stop shaking. Every breath felt like it echoed off the walls. But I didn't leave. Not yet. Because something inside me snapped. I was tired of being watched. Of running. Of not knowing. So I turned on my phone flashlight and went back down the hallway. The writing on the wall was still there. Smudged now, like someone had run their hand through it. Below the message, the wallpaper bulged just slightly. A rounded shape pushing outward. My heart nearly stopped. I reached out and pressed my palm to it. It gave slightly. Hollow. There was a space behind the wall. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed a hammer from the kitchen drawer and started peeling at the corner of the wallpaper. Beneath it, cheap drywall. I hit it once. Twice. On the third swing, the hammer cracked through, revealing a dark, empty cavity. I angled my phone light into it, and nearly dropped the phone. Inside the wall was a narrow passage. Too small for anyone to walk through standing up, but big enough to crawl. And inside that passage were photos. Dozens of them. Pinned to the wooden beams with rusty nails. All of me. Sleeping. Cooking. Showering. Brushing my teeth. Sitting at my desk. Some were recent, like yesterday recent. Others looked years old. Some were printed in black and white, as if from an old film roll. They lined both sides of the passage, all the way down. At the very end, where the light barely reached, was one final photo. A Polaroid. Of me standing in the hallway. Holding the hammer. Right now. I turned around. But I was alone. At least, I thought I was. I don't remember dropping the hammer. I only remember the sound it made when it hit the floor, dull, final. Like a door closing. I backed away from the hole in the wall, heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. That photo, it couldn't exist. I had only just walked into the hallway. There was no way he could have taken it. No time. Unless he'd already been inside. Unless he'd never left. Unless he'd never even lived across the street. I ran out the front door without thinking, barefoot, phone clutched in my hand. I sprinted to the house across the street, the one I'd spent weeks watching. I had to know. I had to see it for myself. I pounded on the front door, screaming, daring him to answer. Nothing. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I walked around back and found the side door unlocked. No cameras. No alarm. Inside, it was empty. Not like someone had just moved out. Like no one had ever lived there. No furniture. No dishes. No dust. Just silence. The curtains I thought I saw him behind? Tacked up bed sheets. The flickering bedroom light? A broken fixture wired to a timer. I searched the whole place, top to bottom. No sign of life. Not even a smell. It wasn't abandoned. It was staged. And then I found the stairs to the basement. There were no photos down there. No letters. Just a chair, facing a wall. A single light bulb overhead. And written in jagged lines across the cement wall. You were always in my house. I left. I didn't pack. I didn't clean up. I got in my car and drove until I crossed 3 state lines. I stayed in motels, changed my number, deleted all social media. I even changed my name. That was a year ago. Sometimes, even now, I wake up in the middle of the night and think I hear a tap. Just one. Sometimes, I still sleep with the hallway light on. And sometimes, in the back of my mind, I wonder. What if I never left his house? What if I only thought I did? Because the truth is, the last letter I got before I left said this. No matter where you go, I'll be there first.